Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, have no fear. A defiant Tundu Lissu appears in court on treason charges that risk the death penalty. The Tanzanian opposition leader tries to reassure supporters of his Chadema party, which wants changes to an electoral process that they say is rigged in favour of the ruling party. Also, the WHO asks for a $2 billion annual budget bump from members as it meets amidst its biggest funding crisis in its existence. I speak to one African health chief who sees the turbulent times as actually a chance to change aid models for the better. And in an historic first for Nigeria, family film In My Father's Shadow steps into the bright lights of the Cannes Festival. Brothers Akinola and Wale Davies Jr.'s touching tribute to scant memories of an absent parent is their country's first to make it into the official selection. But first, Tanzanian opposition leader Tundu Lissu tried to reassure some of the cheering supporters who turned out to back him as he appeared in court on treason charges on Monday. Now, his Chadema party accuses the ruling CCM of repression. It's governed the country since 1977 and now looks set to face very little serious opposition in October's vote, since Chadema has been disqualified from the race. Several Kenyan politicians were also deported whilst trying to attend Lissu's trial. Our regional correspondent, Olivia Bizu, breaks it down for us.
Tanzania's opposition leader Tundu Lissu has appeared in court after he was arrested on treason charges that could carry the death penalty. Now, these are charges that he denies. Tundu Lissu has been in detention since early April after holding a rally where he called for electoral reforms. Prosecutors say they're still investigating the case. The court is expected to reconvene on the 2nd of June. But Lissu's legal team has criticised these delays. Now, security was incredibly tight in the capital, with heavy police deployed around the courthouse. But that did not stop hundreds of his supporters from gathering outside. His case has also drawn international attention. On Sunday, Kenya's former Justice Minister Martha Karua said that she and two colleagues were deported from Tanzania to prevent them from attending this important trial. Just hours later, Kenya's former Supreme Court President, Willy Mutunga, and other rights activists said that they were detained at the airport. In court, Tundu Lissu raised his fist in a gesture of defiance and told his supporters they should not fear. He's no stranger to political risk. In 2017, his car was sprayed with bullets in an assassination attempt. He went into exile, returned in 2020 to run against then-President John Magufuli, but left again after claiming the election was rigged. When Magufuli died in 2021, his vice president Samia Suluhu took over. At first, there was hope for change. She reopened some media outlets and gave a little more space to the opposition. She even allowed Lissu to return in 2023. But those hopes did not last long. Analysts now say her government is sliding back into authoritarian rule.
Olivia Bizo there breaking things down for us. Now, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa arrived in the States on Monday on a trip aimed at resetting his country's trade ties with Washington. Now, the leader is due to meet his US counterpart, Donald Trump, at the White House on Wednesday. Now, the US is South Africa's second largest trade partner after China, but relations have been fractious under the Trump administration. It welcomed dozens of South African Afrikaners last week, claiming that they were refugees facing persecution at home. Pretoria is keen to clear up some facts on that mischaracterization.
We will have to ensure that there is clarification to President Trump, to the people of the world. But this really, it doesn't exist. There should not be a debate, in our view, about a non-existing genocide that the UN, everybody, and all bodies established to deal with genocide said there's no such a thing.
Well, global health chiefs were in Geneva on Monday as the decision-making body of the World Health Organization began its 9-day annual gathering. Budget and policy talks will be tougher than expected this year, and members have been asked to bump the budget by over $2 billion. The WHO is in crisis because of the financial blow of Washington and the Trump administration's decision not to pay its 2024 and 2025 membership dues. But there's also the issue of across-the-board funding cuts from donors from around the world. WHO head Tedros Ghebreyesus warned that the rollbacks have already cost jobs. Some could come at the WHO itself, and the lives of millions around the world have been endangered. I'm joined now by Dr. Doris Macharia, who is the head of the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation, its first African chief. Doctor, thank you so much for making time to speak to us. Now, you're actually at the WHO Assembly, and even amidst concerns about the effects of all of these funding cuts, you remain quite hopeful, actually. Why is that?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I remain hopeful because as I'm here at the World Health Assembly, I'm reminded that we are, at a time when we're going to adopt the pandemic agreement, and that really talks of an international collaboration. And this gives me hope in terms of the work we've been doing for more than 3 decades. And even for the last 2 decades with the PEPFAR funding, we've seen tremendous gains in terms of over 20 million lives that have been saved, and more than 8 million children who, who are born without HIV. And that really gives me hope in terms of how we can forge collaboration and how we can forge new partnerships, be able to show up new resources to enable us reach the last mile, to enable us, at least as EGPAF, think about how we can have an AIDS-free generation.
But more widely across the development aid landscape, do you think that in the long term, something has shifted in terms of the kind of models used when it comes to raising funds to address health issues in particularly developing countries?
Definitely. I mean, definitely something has shifted. For example, as EGPAF, we've been working in Lesotho and have been collaborating there with the Lesotho Ministry of Health since 2004. And, these particular terminations, which were very unfortunate, resulted in about 4 out of the 10 districts that we are working hand in hand with the Ministry of Health without any support for HIV and TB treatment. And that meant about 120,000 people without any treatment for HIV and TB, and laying off of 400 frontline workers. So that's quite significant. But I think there's some good news here. We've seen the Lesotho Ministry of Health stepping up, being able to absorb a lot of the staff members in the 4 affected districts, but also be able to accelerate transition of treatment in a decentralized fashion. However, they do need support. We cannot let them down. And we are committed to being here for the long haul to ensure that we can continue investing in child health, continue investing in making sure that, we can reach our 2030 commitment of having, ending pediatric HIV.
So you're committed, but how has the work that you're actually doing fared amidst this crisis of funding support?
Yeah, it's really been a difficult time. We had programs in Tanzania, in Eswatini, and Lesotho. And, there was a lot of back and forth in terms of pausing some of the activities and terminations of our Eswatini and Lesotho work. And that was very, very unfortunate. And, what we've had to do is to be able to double down, ensure that we can continue the work that we're doing, work with the ministries of health. But we're also here at the World Health Assembly to forge new partnerships, to also explore ways in which funders can also increase their contributions, to also bring forward some of their future contributions to not only fill the gap, but also not to lose what we've gained over the last 2 decades, especially with regards to the HIV program. So we remain hopeful. And yes, as an organization, we had to pivot, but we remain hopeful that with just the support and the partnerships we've forged, I think, and the greater investment, we can actually realize our mission of ending pediatric HIV.
Thank you so much, Dr. Macharia, for your time and the work that you do. Dr. Doris Macharia there, the head of the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation. Well, it is a proud moment for Nollywood, the world's second largest film industry, because for the first time, a Nigerian feature has been officially selected for France's Cannes Film Festival. My Father's Shadow by Akinola Davies Jr. premiered in the Un Certain Regard category. It's an intimate account of a day in his childhood with his brother, with his absent father, and it's touched many who've watched it.
You know what? Go and wear your clothes. You are following me to Lagos today.
But Mommy said we shouldn't leave the house. That we should wait for her. Why don't you stay and wait for her? You can tell her I went with Daddy to Lagos, but he puts you in charge.
Hopefully, your mommy comes back before we go. But otherwise, we just have to leave a message for her. Go now. Sharp, sharp. I don't have time.
Well, Akinola says, speaking to France 24, that the genesis of the story is rooted in his own memory of his childhood.
A lot of it is farmed from personal memories. We lost our father when we were quite young. So actually, me and my brother Wale, the genesis of the story came from wanting to investigate that absence, like what that absence means to us, and how can that story be somewhat universal in a grander thing. So the politics is super personal because we lived through that experience, and then the sort of relationship with fatherhood is equally personal because, you know, we always ask questions about him, we always get told about him, so he's literally, we always lived in his shadow, so it was just really important to try and investigate that for ourselves.
Well, we head to Morocco now and the world's oldest spiritual music festival, which kicked off over the weekend. Billed as a celebration of the soul, it brought artists from around the world to the country's cultural capital and runs to the 24th. Emily Boyle tells us more.
In the heart of Morocco's cultural capital, the 28th edition of the Fez Festival of World Sacred Music is in full swing. The event unites hundreds of musicians from more than 15 countries. This year they are gathered around one theme, Renaissance.
It's a grand journey that evokes the idea of Renaissance and the way humans renew themselves over the centuries.
The festival seeks to promote values of tolerance and interfaith dialogue, all the while bringing people together through the universal language of music.
It's a festival that is known for showcasing different cultures from both within Morocco and outside the country. I love the atmosphere here. The vibe and the ambience are unlike anything else. It makes you feel proud and connected to your Moroccan identity. Music is truly food for the soul.
In line with this year's Renaissance theme, the opening ceremony included a blend of both classical opera and Andalusian tradition.
On the occasion of the World Festival of Ancient Music and the celebration of the anniversary of the twinning of the city of Fez with the city of Florence, it culminated in a concert bringing together the two musical groups, the Fez Music Ensemble and the Italian Music Ensemble.
In addition to a rich musical programme, the festival hosts debates, conferences and workshops known as the Rencontre de Fez. Scholars, artists and thought leaders are invited to engage on the intersection of spirituality, art and society.
It opens up to global cultures and always provides an opportunity for cultural exchanges. There is space for artistic expression, but there are also other fields. And in fact, it deepens cultural dialogue.
Set against a magnificent backdrop of Fez's UNESCO World Heritage Sites, the spiritual festival is attended by thousands of visitors every year. Today, it's ranked as the world's leading festival for sacred music.
Well, that looks amazing. That is, though, all we have time for Eye on Africa. Thanks very much for joining us, though. And do so again if you can. Till then, take care.